Hello all. A wonderful morning to all the participants who have joined the webinar today. You're looking at the endpoint management solutions portfolio, and these are the list of products what we offer under endpoint management section in ManageEngine. And today we're going to extensively see about the Mobile Device Manager Plus product. So welcome you all for the Mobile Device Manager Plus training program. My name is Ruben Karthik, and I'm associated with ManageEngine for the past 6 years. I do the training and implementation for the entire endpoint management solutions. This is our training schedule. We are in the first week of the training program where I'm going to demonstrate about the device onboarding process and how we can provision certain basic policies to your devices. So this is a 3-week series. We have made it in the way where the first week, it will be about device onboarding. Second week, it will be about device app distribution and security provisioning. And third week, it will be about how you can manage your Windows, laptop, and MacBook within our MDM module. And all these sessions will be recorded and will also be sent to the registered participants over email once after the webinar is over. And you, the participants, can also revisit the training session or check the question and answers discussed during the training program in the below mentioned URL. Let's see the training agenda for today. So first, I'm going to give you a quick overview about the Mobile Device Manager Plus solution, an introduction about MDM and the architecture and codes required to manage your device, and how exactly an end device will be managed within our solution. Followed by, I'll show you how you can onboard your devices, the devices which are already in use, and the new phones, how we can onboard them into our MDM solution. Followed by how we can deploy certain basic configurations to your devices and how you can separate the personal and corporate data within the same devices. So this is all what I'm going to discuss on today's webinar. And also I'll demonstrate how you can restrict the unauthorized access to your corporate email so that only the registered users can access your email policies. And followed by, at the end of the training, I'll also share you certain real-time scenarios and the best solutions for it. Meanwhile, if you, the viewers, have any questions or if you have any doubts related to the MDM product, please feel free to post them in the chat. I have an expert panel with me who will be able to answer your questions then and there. All right, see the overview of Mobile Device Manager Plus solution. So these are the list of operating systems which you can manage under the Mobile Device Manager Plus solution in ManageEngine. So you can manage Apple, Android, Windows, and Chromebook. And when it comes to the device type, it could be a smartphone, it could be a laptop, it could be a tablet, and even Surface Hub, Android and Apple TVs, Chromebooks. So these are the device type and operating system which you can manage within our solution. And the MDM, the Mobile Device Manager Plus component itself, is available in 3 flavors. One, as an integrated suite with Desktop Central. So Desktop Central is a unified endpoint management software through which you can manage laptop, desktop, servers. Along with that, you'll also be able to manage the device type and operating system, which I just shared. And that is available on both cloud and on-prem. And you also have the standalone Mobile Device Manager Plus product. So those who want to manage only smartphones and tablets and who wish to have a dedicated MDM solution, they also offer the standalone MDM both on cloud and on-prem. And if we have any MSP audience today, so like a multiple service provider who wish to manage devices from different companies, then we also support the multi-tenant architecture in the version of Mobile Device Manager Plus MSP edition, and that is also available on both cloud and on-prem. And we understand an MDM admin would want to integrate with as many applications as possible just to make the administrator job easy. So they would be able to perform the day-to-day management, their administration tasks easy. So we have the leverage to integrate our MDM with our own ticketing software called ManageEngine Service Desk Plus. And also you can integrate with other help desk solutions like Spiceworks, Jira Service Desk, Zendesk, ServiceNow. And also you can integrate with our own client relationship management software called Zoho CRM and also the Zoho Creator application. And in case if you are looking to integrate with any other applications apart from this list, You can also use the publicly API key available in our website through which you can perform a seamless integration. You can visit the below mentioned URL for that. All right, so this is the MDM architecture. So be it any MDM solution you go with, that will follow an universal architecture in order to manage the devices. And that involves three major components. One is the MDM server. Second is the notification services. And third is the end device itself. So these are the three components plays a role when it comes to managing a phone within MDM. So first, it can have an on-prem or a cloud solution, which has the server component. And second, the notification services. So when it comes to understanding the architecture, let's take an example. Say as an admin, you would like to deploy an app, or if you want to find out the location of a device, all you will do is access a console. You go initiate a command on the device, which in turn will be sent to the notification services first. So if you would like to find out a location of an Apple device, the command you initiate from the server console will go to the notification service. In this case, it will go to the Apple push notification service. And the APNers will use the device UDID or the serial number, the unique number of the devices to wake up, through which it will know, okay, this I have to contact the appropriate MDM server. So the device will contact this MDM and it will know what command to execute. If it has to be location, if it has to be geolocation tracking, it will fetch the geo coordinate and send back the status to the server, which as an admin, you will be able to see it in the map within the product UI. So this is how the architecture flow will be. A command, whatever you initiate, will go to the notification service, which in turn will wake up the device, through which the device will contact and process the command here. When you go with on-premise model, you need to make sure the internal MDM server is reachable to the device. So if you don't expose your server to a public IP address or an AT address, then the server will not be able to communicate with. But still, if you would like to expose an additional component called secure gateway, say you don't want to expose your internal MDM, but I would place a secure gateway component on my DMZ zone, which in turn will redirect all the communication from the internet to the internal MDM server. So you can also place a secure gateway component for the on-premise users. But when you go with cloud, the server is already available in our data center. The notification services are available in the internet. The only thing you need to make sure is the device has an internet connection, either if it is connected to a hotspot or mobile data or Wi-Fi, it can reach the server and be able to process the commands you initiate. And also you can integrate with our directory services, which I'll be demonstrating in the upcoming slide, through which you can also perform easy user management or easy user assignment for your devices. All right, so when it comes to on-premise users, so these are the list of ports which needs to be allowed in your network. The device will use 9383 to contact the server, and the server will use 443 to the notification services, and device notification will happen through 5223 series. So you can also check the inbound and outbound port information in the below mentioned URL. And so you might wonder, as you even saw it in the architecture now, so you need to have a component installed in the devices so that it will know to which MDM server it has to communicate with. And that's what I'm going to demonstrate in today's webinar. What are the different ways through which you can install the MDM profile or app through which you can manage them. And when it comes to Android, you need to necessarily have the MDM app deployed on the phone in order to take control or in order to manage them. But when it comes to iOS, Windows, and Chromebook, you don't need to necessarily have the app deployed. They provide the native, the OS client itself to leverage the MDM profile through which you can manage it. So all you need is just the profile installation on these operating system phones through which you can get access to. But when it comes to Android, you need to have the MDM app. So I'll demonstrate what are the different ways through which we can onboard your devices into our MDM solution. Meanwhile, if you would like to have a one-on-one session with our technicians or with our engineer to discuss about your product requirements and how you want to set it up, you can also write it in the chat for a free online demonstration where we'll be able to check the available slots and confirm the timing with you. All right, so before I take you to the enrollment process, let me take you to the product console and show you how the MDM UI would look like. This is how the standalone MDM console would look like, and the integrated desktop central MDM would be the same way. So the initial desktop central was the holistic solution which we offered, and then we launched the individual component of desktop central into separate products like mobile device manager, patch manager, and OS deployer and all. So this is how the desktop central MDM console would look like, and the standalone MDM would be like this. Under the home tab, you can check what are the devices you manage, like how many smartphones, how many laptop and tablets you have, and about the OS type. Like if you want to know how many Android devices I manage, you can just click on the count. This will automatically take you to the inventory of the device details, and it will list only the Android devices you managing here. Okay, this is one way. And home tab will give you the basic audit log details also. So which app has been added, which technician has performed what actions. You can check all those details here. And under device management, you can check all the, or you'll be able to do all the management tasks like grouping your device, creating profiles or device settings and distributing them to your devices, adding applications and distributing them. So you can do all the basic management tasks on this tab. Inventory is where you check the device details. You can choose the required columns to be listed, and you can also export these information in PDF CSV format. You can also check the location data. You can, in a single map, you can check all the device locations here. And even you'll be able to see the list of apps you manage. If you want to block or allow certain apps, you'll be able to do it from this page. And enrollment is what I'm going to demonstrate in today's webinar. So these are where you can see about the list of enrollment types and how you can onboard your phones. Report section, we have certain predefined reports available within our MDM. And even if you like to schedule these reports, for example, I want to know what are the apps installed on my devices. I would like to check these reports on a daily basis. You choose the reports you wish, and then you can schedule them, like say daily or weekly basis. And you can choose in which format and to which email address the report has to be sent. And admin tab is where you do all the administration tasks like creating users. If multiple users are going to manage the console, you can add the user information and also define a role to them and be able to assign it to the appropriate technician you create. And even if you'd like to rebrand your company logo, instead of ManageEngine MDM, if you would like to rebrand your company logo, you have the options to do that under the admin portal. And support tab, using which you'll be able to check all the support channels. You can use the live chat through which you can get in touch with our technical team at any time, 24/5. This will be available for you to communicate with us. And you can also use the toll-free numbers to reach our team. And if you'd like to raise a support session, you'll also be able to use the toll-free number or request support options, and you'll be able to make use of it. All right, so this is a quick overview about our MDM console. And now let's see about how you can onboard or how you can enroll your devices into our MDM solution. And when it comes to enrollment, let me consider myself as an admin, and I work for an organization called Zilker. And my management have asked me to add the devices into this MDM, which is already in use. The devices, it could be already in use, and I want to onboard them into our solution. And also, I have some new devices too. So first, let me show you how an admin can onboard the devices which are already in use, which is already with the employees or the engineers, how you can onboard them into a product. And for that, you have two options. One, enrollment with invite. Either you can send an email or SMS invite through which the users can access the link and update the OTP to register the phone. Second, self-enrollment, where they have a common URL published, and they'll be able to go to that appropriate URL through which they can also provide their username and password for registration. These are the two methods available for the devices which are already in use. And the benefits of going through this way, like the phones which are already in use and you go and add them through email or self-enrollment, it isolates the personal and corporate data on the phone. Within the same device, you'll be able to see a separate corporate space created through which you will only see the corporate app being distributed. And by default, the users will not be able to share the files across work app and the personal application, and be able to even share across another devices. So these are certain benefits through which you'll be able to avail when you enroll a device through email or self-enrollment. So first, let me show you the work process or workflow for adding the devices through email invite. As an admin, you will choose the appropriate user and share the invites to them, or either you update the user email address or SMS number, and that will be sent, and that will share the email invite and a code through which the user will register the phone. And for that, you go to the enrollment section, and let me show you how you can onboard an iOS device first. And in order to manage an Apple device, you need to have the APNS certificate added to your MDM server. The Apple push notification certificate is mandatory in order to manage Apple device. This is not just with our managing an MDM, be it any MDM solution you go with. In order to manage an Apple phone, you need to have the Apple push notification certificate added to your device. And for that, it's just a two-step procedure. Let me show you from my. If you go to the APNS portal, let me remove and re-add it too. Let me open another MDM server and show the steps to you. So all you need is to download a certificate file from our solution and be able to use that for onboarding. All right. Yes. So you need to have an Apple ID, a corporate Apple ID would be better, because you'll be notified whenever the APNS portal the certificate gets expired. And when this gets expired, the devices, whatever you've onboarded, might go unmanaged. So it is better for you to, and you have to renew every 1 year. So like every 365 days, you might need to add a new certificate or renew the new certificate within the MDM portal here. And let's assume you already have integrated the APNS certificate into your MDM server. And once that is done, in order to invite a user, you go to the enrollment device section, you have enroll device. And here you can find the appropriate OS type. So based on the operating system, you can invite the users. And let's assume I'm trying to invite a user who's using the iPhone or iPad. You can search for the username. And if you have integrated with your directory services like Azure AD or Okta or G Suite or on-premise AD, you can find automatically the user details will be updated here. And you can choose if you would like to automatically assign these devices to a group, like say sales department. When they register the device through this particular link, they'll be able to automatically get all the sales related app and policies, whatever your admin have distributed. So this is how you send an invite. And the invite would look like exactly this way. So the users can either scan the QR code. If not, they can click on the link from the phone, which will download the MDM profile, and then it will prompt them to enter the OTP. So this is the process the user will have to follow when you send an invite to them. And this invite will be valid for 7 days. And admin can also check the status under the enrollment pending status. You'll know whether the request is created or whether the request got expired. So you can check all those information under this portal here. And when a user accesses this link, this is how the image would look like. So they will get a prompt for the MDM profile installation. They need to accept and continue. Once they allow the profile to download, it will not be right away installed. It will just be downloaded under the OS, under the settings tab. The user has to manually go and approve the profile and then install it. Once the profile is trusted or approved, then the device gets registered through which you can be managing them. So this is how you send an invite to the users, and the user have to follow these on-screen instructions what has been shared to them for completing the registration part. And as you see, the invite are specific to individual user and device, and the OTP will also expire in 7 days. So if the invite get expired, so you need to go and resend them from the action tab. So this is how you onboard devices through email invite. And self-enrollment is where you go and configure a particular URL. So based on the appropriate MDM server you have, the URL will be updated. And you can share this URL across all your users through which they'll be able to register the phone. So what will happen when they access the URL is, it will again download the MDM profile. But here OTP will not be generated. So the user has to provide their AD username and password in order to complete the self-enrollment process. Right. So when it comes to onboarding a device through self-enrollment method, you need to have the Active Directory integration. It should be an on-premise AD or Azure AD, which needs to be integrated, through which the user has to provide the credentials for authentication. Because when it comes to email invite, you, the administrators, are sharing the invite to the appropriate user. But when it comes to self-enrollment, anyone, any employee who have access to this URL can register the devices within the portal, through which they'll also be able to access the corporate app and corporate document if it has been shared to the appropriate department you configure or you publish to. So that is the reason the AD integration is a mandatory process in order to onboard the device through self-enrollment. And you can choose whether you want to allow this integration for all your Active Directory groups or only for selected AD groups. And you can also choose how many devices per user can be permitted for enrollment. For example, I might choose 3 because a user might have one smartphone and a tablet, and also they might also have a laptop which they want to register within the MDM portal. So you can choose appropriate device count based on your business use case. And also you can choose to which email address it has to be notified if if any user enrolls a device into your MDM. And if there's an Android user, you want them to add it to the sales group, or say if it is an Android user, it could be a drivers. And if it is an Apple user, I want them to be added to the sales department or customer relationship department. So based on the use case you have, you can also automatically group your devices into the appropriate department here. As I stated before, when the user gets added to this group, automatically whatever policies or whatever apps you distributed to the solutions will be updated to them. So this is what the grouping here is. If you distributed a couple of profile and apps to them, automatically the newly added user will also get these policies and applications. That's about self-enrollment. Let's assume when the user accesses this URL, so this is how it automatically downloads the profile and prompts him to enter the server details, and they need to provide their AD user. They have to mention the domain name and AD username and credentials here, through which the device gets registered. So these are the 2 ways through which you'll be able to add a device which are already in use. So if you go to enrollment, so you have the top left pane through which you can send an email invite, and you can check the device details also here. And self-enrollment, where you can choose what are the user groups can bring their own device into the solution by going to a self-enrollment URL. So these 2 methods would be applicable for the devices which are already in use. Now, let's say the devices which is new, or it could be a company phone where you would like to take complete control. Because when you onboard a device through email or self-enrollment, it creates a workspace, and only the workspace can be managed by you, but not the entire device. Only a couple of other settings can be controlled by you. But if it is a corporate phone, you might need to completely manage them, where you want to apply a lot of restrictions, and you want a whitelist app. And also for that, you have another set of enrollment, which I'm going to show you now. And you might also wonder, when it comes to enrolling a new device, the complete initial setup has to be manually done by the user or an admin. So by configuring the language, Siri settings, or the Wi-Fi policies, and all of the settings has to be manually entered by the user. And so how you can automate that, how we can prevent, or how we can bypass the basic configurations through the enrollment method. So that's why we have a couple of methods under the MDM module. So for Apple, we have the Apple Business Manager, through which you can automate the enrollment process, and you'll also get complete access for that. And when it comes to Android, you have Zero Touch and Knox. Knox mobile enrollment is specifically for the Samsung devices. And benefits of doing the enrollment through these methods will help you to silently deploy an app on the device. Without user intervention, you'll be able to silently deploy app, and you can whitelist applications. Like say, I want my users to use only the 5 or 6 set of applications. Apart from that, the device should be locked for that. So if you would like to whitelist app, you can do it only when the devices are onboarded through the automated or corporate enrollment. And also you can manage the operating system updates. So you can choose when the device needs to update, or if you want to delay the OS update, also you have a policy through which you can customize that. And you'll also have a full support for profiles and configurations. So be it any settings on the phone, either a call option or a camera settings or a Bluetooth option, be it any settings on the devices, you'll be able to restrict if it has been added through the corporate enrollment technique. Onboard the device through these methods, through the automated enrollment technique. So you need to have an account with Apple or Google, and the device is to be purchased directly from the Apple Store or from authorized resellers. So this is essential for the Apple devices if you're trying to onboard them through Apple Business Manager. So let's see this is the workflow or for the automated enrollment method. So you need to integrate your MDM server with Apple Business Manager, and then add the devices to the Apple Business Manager portal, and then distribute the devices to it. And the users can just go and register the devices by entering the user credentials from them. All right, first let me show you for the Apple Business Manager how you can onboard. So let me again check you have the options under enrollment, Apple enrollment, and you have servers. I've already integrated my server with my Apple Business Manager account. But however, let me show you how the UI would look like if you haven't integrated with it. So you can go to the Apple enrollment, and this is a 5-step procedure that you need to download the public key from your MDM server. Then if you have an ABM account, you can just directly sign in. If you don't, you can sign up and create an ABM account for your corporate Apple ID. And once that is done, you go to the settings, device management settings. Let me log into my Apple Business Manager portal. Okay. So you need to go to the settings tab. Yeah, go to the settings, device management settings, and then add your MDM server under the ABM portal. Yeah, so you have the option under settings, device management settings, and then add your appropriate MDM server. When you add them, it will ask you to upload the key which will be downloaded from your MDM server. So each MDM server will have the unique public key. You can download them and upload it in your ABM portal, which in turn will generate a new token from your ABM account, which needs to be updated back under our portal. So this is like a two-way handshake. You download the key from our solution, upload it under the Apple Business Manager portal, then download the token from here, and then you upload back to your MDM server for which the device gets registered. And here is where you customize the device activation settings too. So if you would like to skip all these initial device configuration setups, like signing in with Apple ID, Touch ID setup, diagnostics, payments, and you can skip all of these device activation settings when you onboard them through Apple Business Manager. This is how you integrate and then choose the device customization or activation settings here, and then integrate your MDM server. Once this is done, you can then log into your Apple Business Manager portal, update your Apple customer number or reseller ID, because they're the ones who is going to upload the device serial number into your Apple Business Manager account. So if you're procuring the devices directly from Apple Store, you can mention the Apple customer number here, and automatically the device details will be synced to your account. If you have purchased from the resellers, you can mention the reseller's IDs also here. Once you have done that, then you can go to the devices tab. You'll be able to see the list of devices you manage. And you can choose the appropriate devices. For example, I want to map these 3 iPad into my MDM server. You can just choose the appropriate MDM server you have and then continue. So this is how you And this is how you'll be able to choose the required devices and assign it to the appropriate MDM server you have. Even if the devices are already being mapped to another MDM server, you can then release it. You can just unassign the MDM server from the appropriate server, and then you choose our MDM server to map them with it. Once you've done that, the end user just needs to turn on the device. If the devices was already in use and you're looking to completely manage them, then factory reset is required. Once the device is factory reset, during the initial activation phase itself, it will validate, okay, this device serial number belongs to this MDM server. It automatically downloads the appropriate MDM profile from the portal and it gets registered. So this is how you automate the enrollment. As you see, you don't have to physically have the devices on hand. You just need to integrate your MDM server with Apple Business Manager portal. Once you've done that, from the ABM portal itself, you can select the required devices and be able to assign it to the appropriate MDM server. This is the automated way of enrollment for Apple device. And for Google, we have for Android, we have the Google Zero Touch enrollment. Similar concept where you need to have a Google Zero Touch account and you need to create a configuration for here. Let me show you the details, what needs to be entered. Have the Zero Touch enrollment here, and you have the steps to, so you can create an account, the Google Zero Touch account, and then log into the portal and create a configuration. The configuration is where you need to provide your JSON data. JSON data has the MDM server information for your portal, and you can update those information under the Zero Touch portal. And then same concept, like using the device serial number, you'll be able to map the devices to the appropriate MDM server. That's it. You have the DPC extras where you can copy paste the information from your MDM server under the Zero Touch configuration page. Once you've done that, you can select the required devices and be able to assign it to the server. And as usual, when the user just turn on the device, automatically the device will validate and this will show the device belongs to the appropriate MDM. And as you see, the users cannot skip this process. Even though they reset the device multiple times, it will still come back to this very same page. And they need to accept and continue in order to manage the devices. The work account will be set up and the device registration will be completed. And similar way for Knox enrollment, where you can log into the Samsung Knox portal and add the MDM server details there, and using the device serial number, again, you'll be able to map it with the appropriate MDM server. And a similar way for Azure enrollment also, which will be covered in the third week of the training for Windows laptop management. All right, so these are the enrollment methods we have. And remember the first one on the top, which you see, or for the devices which are already in use. It could be an email or SMS or self-enrollment. And the methods mentioned under the Apple and Android section, these are all for corporate enrollment methods, where these are all for corporate devices where you would like to take complete control. So I've shown you about invite and self-enrollment, ABM and Zero Touch. So these are all the automated where, like we can say, even the over-the-air enrollment, Zero Touch and Apple Business Manager, where you don't even physically have the devices on hand. Whereas NFC and EMM token is all requires the device needs to have a QR code scanning, and if not, you need to use the near field communication and bump the devices to onboard. There are a couple of methods through which you can also onboard your devices into our MDM. All right, so this is about the enrollment process. If you have any queries related to the enrollment or onboarding process, please feel free to put them in the chat and the panel can help you with it. So once the devices are added through ABM or Zero Touch or Apple Configurator, any of the corporate methods, the devices will get listed under the Stage tab. So you need to click on Assign User and map this device to the appropriate user and group to complete the onboarding. So first is where the device will get registered with the MDM profile or app. Second is where you map the devices to the appropriate user. You can also use a bulk CSV import option for assigning the user to assigning the devices to the users in bulk. All right, let me show you some basic provisioning policies which you can apply to your devices. For that, you can go to the Device Management tab. You go to the Profile section. Profile is where you create policies to your devices. You can create multiple profiles based on the business needs. Say first profile for the employees and second profile for the supervisors where you would like to limit the restrictions. Likewise, you can create multiple profiles. Let me create an Apple profile and Android profile side by side. Even when it comes to Android, you have an options to either apply for a Samsung Knox alone or just for the entire Android device. You can choose the appropriate policy here. All right. Basic provisioning is where the admin would like to configure the passcode policy. So for Apple or iOS or iPad OS, you can choose the passcode type to be 6-digit minimum, and I want them to have a special character included on the passcode. If not, I'll keep it as none. And I want them to change the passcode every 90 days. So every 3 months, I want them to change it. And I want to limit the number of failure attempts. So if someone enters the wrong passcode consecutively for more than 6 times, it do an automatic reset. So even though if a device gets lost or stolen, if anyone try to enter a wrong passcode, they'll get a notification like, say, you have only 5 attempts remaining, 4 attempts, and if all the attempts are used, it will reset the devices. The passcode policy based on the operating system you can customize here. And then for Android, you will also have additional options like fingerprint, iris scanning, and face scanning, which you can restrict here. And whether you want to give a pattern lock for your users or a number pin, so you can choose the appropriate passcode type. And specifically just for work profile, if you want to create a policy, you have an option here. If not for the entire device, you can customize it. And restriction where you can restrict camera, FaceTime, or if, for example, I want to prevent the file sharing. I don't want my users to share the files from work apps to personal applications. So I'll just go and enable this restriction. When I mark this, they'll not be able to download any attachment from the work application and share it with the personal applications. So these are certain policies which I want to configure. And Wi-Fi, yes, I want them to automatically connect to our Wi-Fi and incorporate Wi-Fi network when they come within the office premises. I'll also choose the passcode type. Like I'm using this one, so I'll choose the profile. You can also add multiple Wi-Fi profiles here, a guest one and a work profile. For guest, we use certificate authentication, so I'll just go and upload the certificate we have and be able to configure that here. So it's all based on your requirement. You'll be able to add the necessary policies, be able to distribute it. VPN, even if you want your devices to connect to the appropriate VPN network, you'll be able to choose the appropriate protocol. And per app VPN also supported. For example, only when they use the Office application, I want them to connect to the appropriate VPN network. So I'll be able to choose that also. So these are certain basic policies which you can customize based on your business use case and be able to distribute. Even email policies. If you're using Exchange ActiveSync or Office 365 or Exchange on-premise server, you can provide the appropriate server details and choose to which email client you want to configure this policy to. And whether you want to allow the contact sync or the calendar sync, you can just enable these options also here. So this is about email policies too. And based on the passcode policy, so like if you have a passcode to be minimum 6 digits, and if the user haven't configured as such, it will prompt them to configure the passcode based on the norms you created. So this will notify the users about it. And this is how the work profile will be created for the devices which was already in use. For example, the devices which is already in use and you onboard them through email or SMS or self-enrollment, it creates a separate workspace like this, and that can only be managed by you. And passcode, Wi-Fi, VPN profiles you can create, and securing the data, as you said, as I showed you. Under profiles, restrictions, you can choose whether you want to restrict Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and other options. You have network and roaming, where you can choose the options to always on or disable file sharings and all. Device connectivity, tethering options, and Bluetooth options you can disable, NFC disable. So likewise, you can make use of these options also under the restrictions. And if you don't want the users to upload anything on the cloud, you do have an option under the security tab where you can prevent the users from uploading this data to the cloud. Yeah, even if you want to prevent them adding a personal account on the device can also be restricted. And same way for Apple also, you have other restrictions, right, which you can add it under the device functionalities. So add drop, adding signing into the iCloud accounts. So based on your business use case, you'll be able to make use of these restrictions and apply it to your devices. USB flash drives, adding iCloud accounts can be restricted to allow USB connection when the device is locked. So these are certain type of restrictions based on the use case you'll be able to apply to your devices. And between apps, I already showed you where you can just go and prevent the users from sharing an app or data from managed app to unmanaged app. So these are policies which you can apply. And this is how the containerization will look like on Android device. Either for some Android device, always support a separate work profile like this. If not, on other Android devices with the same list of applications, you will see a briefcase icon on all the work-related apps. So whatever app being distributed through our product will be considered as a managed app or a work app, which will have a briefcase icon. For iOS, you'll not be able to see a separate icon or a workspace created, but only when they try to share the files, you'll get a notification that this is a work application and file sharing has been restricted here. That's how it will be notified. And so before containerization, when a user tries to share or open any attachment being shared on the work email, they'll be able to do it on personal apps too. But after condensation, they'll only have access to the work application. So this is such a pictorial representation through which you can see how the attachments can be opened once after the containerization profile is applied to the devices. All right, now let me show you how we can secure your corporate emails from unauthorized access. So we offer conditional exchange access to all the users here. So where you can integrate your Exchange server, either Office 365 or on-premise Exchange server with our MDM, and then enforce the policies. The policy is where you choose only the devices enrolled with MDM can get access to your Exchange server. For that, you go to Device Management tab. You have Conditional Exchange access here. And you can integrate your server details. So you can mention your either if you're using Office 365 or on-premise server, you can update the details here and use the information, use the credentials to integrate with. Once that is done, you go to the access policy and choose whether you want to apply this conditional access to only certain users. For example, if I select these two users alone, only when these two users try to sign into my Office 365 Exchange account, it will demand them to have the MDM application. As this will be displayed to them. As per the company policy, only devices enrolled with MDM can access mailbox. So use your use this below enrollment URL to register your account. If you apply this to all your users, this gets applied to every employee who tries to access your Exchange mail server. And if they don't have an MDM account, as stated, it will have the notification displayed to them. So you need to have the device enrolled to use them. And you can also give a grace period. So I want to give a 3 days grace period through which within which the user have to register the devices with an MDM. If they fail to do, then the only way to get access to the mail again is to register the device with an MDM. And the administrators can also see those details here under the device details section, where they can see the list of users who has this MDM profile deployed, whether they have enrolled or not enrolled, and whether the access is blocked or allowed. You can check all those information under the device details section. So this is how you integrate your Exchange server and enforce the policy so that only the registered users will get access to your corporate email. And the same is applicable for Office 365 applications too, and specific application policies like I want to give access, I don't want to copy paste or in only when they use the Office writer or certain application based on your business use case, you can also configure specific application policies here. All right. So we've come to the end of the training where I'm going to share you certain real-time scenarios and solutions which I have faced in my support experience. In case if you have any specific questions based on your business use case, please feel free to post them in the chat and our panel team can help you with it. First, is it possible to enroll a device which was not purchased through resellers or from Apple Store? And is it possible to supervise or get a complete control? Yes, you can use the Apple Configurator for the devices which are not purchased from the resellers or Apple Store. So you can just create, you just need to physically connect the devices to a MacBook and publish this profile to them. So you create a Wi-Fi profile and make sure you enable this option to add the devices to our MDM server. You copy paste these details under the ABM portal, and then you distribute the policies to them. So you will have an option to choose for adding the devices to the ABM portal. So even though you physically connect the devices to Apple Configurator and you upload, still you can add them to the Apple Business Manager portal so that you can use it for future onboarding process also. Yes, so in order to get complete access on Apple devices, it has to be added through Apple Enrollment, that is Apple Business Manager, if not through Apple Configurator. Second, I want to leverage the benefits of zero-touch enrollment, but some of my devices are not supported. Yes, then if the devices does not support zero-touch, then you can go with EMM Token, which is again a simplest way. If you have, as you know, if you would like to get complete access, the device needs to be either new. If not, you need to do a factory reset. So from the welcome screen, if it is a new device or a factory reset device, from the welcome screen itself, you can tap the screen for 6 times, which will open a code scanner. And scanning this QR code will register the devices. That's it. And NFC is where you install the ManageEngine enrollment app on your phone or the administrator phones, and you can bump all your other devices, and which will transfer the MDM app and get the device assigned to the user. So these are a couple of methods through which you can also onboard your Android devices. So what will happen if 2 contradictory profiles are applied? So for example, in the first profile, I restricted camera, and in the second profile, I allowed camera. So what will happen for Apple and Android device? For an Apple phone, the most strict policy will take its precedence, meaning even though you restricted camera and allowed in the second profile, still the camera option will be restricted or will be disabled unless and until you go and allow it under the first profile. So this is for Apple devices. So remember, for Apple, the most stringent policy, strict policy will take its precedence. But when it comes to Android, the latest policies will override all the previous settings. So even though you restricted camera, video recording, and file sharing, everything on the first profile and distributed to Android devices, but by mistake, if in case second or down the line in the latest profile, if you have allowed all the permissions and distributed to a device, it will override. So the user will be able to make use of the policies that are the permissions you allowed in the latest profile. So for Android, the latest profile will take its precedence. For iOS, the most strict policy will override the settings. So how can we ensure the users connect only to the Wi-Fi which was distributed through our MDM? So we have this Wi-Fi policies here. Under restriction, first, in order to apply this restriction, you need to make sure you configure these Wi-Fi profiles and distribute it to the users first. And then you go and restrict them so that it will only connect to the policies whichever you distributed through our solution. So you go to network and roaming. Here you have the options. Connect to Wi-Fi, only distribute via MDM. So if the user tries to connect to any open Wi-Fi, the options will be disabled. So this is how you can apply these restrictions on the phone. How can we prevent certain sensitive corporate content from being displayed on the device lock screen? As you know, even OTPs and other message contents will be displayed on the lock screen these days. If you want to globally prevent on all your managed devices, when you go to the security tab, you have lock screen notification preference, where you can hide or don't show the notifications at all. So it's up to your requirement through which you can prevent the sensitive information being displayed on the lock screen of the phone. And the sixth scenario, let's say you're already using an MDM solution. Is it possible to have both the MDM profiles running on the same device, or is it possible to migrate? And yes, you need to understand you cannot have both two MDM profiles on the same device for management. And yes, it is possible for you to migrate from your MDM solution into our MDM without losing any data. So this is possible for Android devices. For Apple, you might, if it is a corporate device, you might need to remanage them through Apple Business Manager or Apple Configurator. So we do have a specific help articles which might be helpful for you to know about the migration process. Which we'll also share it to you on. This is the article through which you can follow it. All right, that's it. We have come to the end of the training. So in case if you like the training program, please feel free to post rate us on a scale of 1 to 5, where 5 is being the best. And as I stated before, if you like to have a one-on-one session, please feel free to post them in the chat. And if you like the training, please use the hashtag /MobileDeviceManager or /ManageEngine and spread your love on the social media platform. And thank everyone for joining the webinar. And you have the next session on 24th of August, where we are going to discuss about app management and device provisioning. And it will happen in 2 sessions, one at 6:30 GMT and 11:30 Eastern time. And I thank everyone again for joining the webinar. Take care and stay safe. Thank you.